remind the public to not feed wild animals of any kind, birds, coyote, anything, squirrels, etc. They really need to fend for themselves. And I was discussing with somebody today, and they said somebody was putting dog food out for crows. And that is just really bad idea, because crows and other birds like that then take more of their fair share and damage the habitat for other birds that they prey on. So please, please do not put food out for wild animals or birds. And please. All right. Okay, so
before we move on, first off, my apologies. It does look like the version you have says oral communications twice. One of them is supposed to say announcements. We're dealing with a new template in our posting tool, so my apologies, that didn't get changed. I did want to note for the record that we had under announcements also had revised Brown Act provision notes and FAQs from the city attorney. So hopefully you have all had a chance to review that.
Yes. And if you didn't, please do. Okay. It's several pages, and do we need to go over that at all in the meeting?
If anyone has any questions, we certainly could, but I just wanted to make sure it was noted for the record and that you all had received it and acknowledged it. And if anyone has any questions,
okay,
we could try to address them or direct them back to the city attorney.
So does anyone have any other oral communications, or is there any members of the public that have oral communications? Okay. So next comes approval of the minutes from the January 6th, 2025 meeting.
Before anyone makes a motion, I would like to request a change to the minutes. And I emailed it to Adrienne already, so she's tracking. In the discussion, in the notes capturing our discussion of the DEIR, we talked about housing as an alternative. And the people who were talking thought that that might be a good idea, and I did not say anything because it wasn't an alternate, it wasn't really germane, it wasn't going to happen. But in the minutes, it looks like we had a preference for housing, and my preference is against housing on that site because kids play in dirt, it's mining contaminated, asphalt contaminated. So I would like to have that bit changed so that it doesn't make it sound like all of OSEC is for housing.
Yeah, because I am also historically and currently still opposed to housing there until I don't feel it's a safe site for, it can be made safe for housing.
Right. Yep. It's one thing if it's an office park, because usually you don't garden at your office, but it's different if it's.
Yeah.
So
can we make that change to the minutes?
Yes.
You could just say housing it as an alternative, because that does not describe a preference.
Okay.
Or
housing
just strike it all together.
I was going to say, my suggestion was just going to be strike preference for housing because it mentions as well as history of potential housing development at the quarry. So
that sounds good to me.
We can just strike that. And
Are there any other changes to the minutes? Any other corrections? Okay. Thank you for bringing that up, Erin.
I will motion to approve.
I missed that, which is very much not where I stand either. So
good. I'm going to motion to approve the minutes with that one phrase deleted.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Oh, okay. Back to where we were. OSEC work plan and new business. Okay. So on our agenda, the first thing we need to do is discuss old business, how to address the climate action plan goals. And Anthony provided some very good background on that. And I don't know at what level we want to go over that, but I think that it's important to go back and kind of talk about it. And if I can paraphrase some stuff from your email, or if you'd like to.
Was that an email?
It was in an email, yeah. And it just says, there are many possible directions that could be, I'm just going to paraphrase it, taken that would have effective climate outcomes, but we aren't going to solve all of our climate woes in one OSEC meeting. True. Damn. Darn. So I'd just like to start a discussion today about how best to approach OSEC process and not get too deep into the weeds. Make sure we carve out a space for OSEC for us to focus on emissions problem historically, discuss solutions that might have the biggest impact on Brisbane, and figure out what we can do to pull all the levers we can as quickly as we can and get every resource behind the effort. I appreciate that very much, Anthony. You have thoughts about specific ideas and specific initiatives or directions we could go. So I wanted to share my running notes here, which we have, and hoping we can start the productive dialogue about a swift, effective emissions reduction solutions wherever we can find them. So how do you want to best proceed? Should we go through the various things that you put on the list, or?
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess it's an open question. You know, we could sort of synopsize what's in there, but it really was just kind of a running, you know, list of ideas, sort of, and we discussed a lot of those at the meeting. I don't know. I'm not sure how productive it would be to get into specific solutioning here tonight. More, you know, what I was hoping to get at was kind of, is there a way that we can, you know, formalize some kind of a subcommittee or working group, carve out a place where we can have a more robust discussion about these things. And
I think, I don't know how the rest of the committee feels, but I do think it's good for us to just quickly go through these as a group, because I feel that brings us all to where we're at and where we should be focused. And I also feel like some of the points that you made are really important, and especially how being a small city can be such an advantage for us in accomplishing these things. So do you want to go through them real quick?
sure.
Is everybody good with that?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Okay. Well, let's see. Maybe I can.
Do you want the printed copy, or?
Oh, it's okay. I've got
Okay,
it up here.
I thought you
Thank
did.
you. So maybe I can start by just synopsizing some of the high-level key points. So, first off, base level, right? The climate crisis is here. Extreme weather events and related disasters are increasingly frequent and intense, and requiring proactive action rather than reactive responses, right? And this
Anthony,
concept that
are you getting
Can you
picked up
speak?
on the mic?
do I need to be? Are you
That's
hearing me now?
better, and
Is
we're
it
trying
closer?
to get the volume up, but
Okay. Sorry about that. So, I mean, the way I see it, self-reliance is increasingly essential, especially with federal support looking uncertain these days. I think, Brisbane really needs to lead locally, in mitigating and adapting climate risks in a self-reliant way. Also seems to me speed is really key. I'm looking, one thing that really started this whole process for me was, we're looking at 2030. We've got a goal of, 66% reductions, and that's 5 years away. It's coming right up. And even 2040, that's only 15 years away. Right. And so, that's none of that is much time at all. And if we're serious about meeting our greenhouse gas reductions targets, which I think we should be, we really need to move much more quickly than we ever have before. And that's, yeah, anyway. And so, as you were saying before, I think, we have an interesting opportunity before us, though, because everything is being measured in percentages, right? Because we're actually a smaller city, every home, every business, every project matters that much more. It has sort of an outsized impact, if you compare it to a larger metropolis like, LA or something like that, it's much harder to do. But if you've only got,
4,000 houses.
right, right. Well, and not even that, it's 4,000 people, right?
4,000, yes.
Right. So, um, so, so that's really interesting to me. I think with, aggressive action, I think we have a real opportunity to lead there, which is exciting. So, and I did a bit of research into, sort of, that got me thinking, what are other cities doing? What, what's worked, what hasn't? And that's part of the discussion that I think we could, really be having is I'd love to know more about, what have we tried? What's worked? What hasn't? What have others tried? What's worked? What hasn't? And what would be needed to, really empower a push like that. Yeah, I don't know how how deep into the weeds do you want to go with
Well,
this?
I think we should kind of go, I mean, I know it's a lot, but I think it's good for us to really, I think it's good for the whole committee to be focused on what all of this is. And then also, if someone in the public is listening, they should know too. And so, maybe a few more weeds, I think. Everyone else good with that?
Can I just make a comment?
Sure.
I think that whatever ideas OSEC comes up with, it needs to be simple for people to get there. It needs to be, we need to be realistic, right? I think some of these are realistic and some of them are not. So I just want to, if we want to make a difference, I think whatever we come up with needs to be a quick win.
Mary, do you have an example? Sorry. Do you have an example of what you would consider to be one that
Well,
we could and one that we couldn't?
The one, you guys will probably shoot me, but I think the sales tax, dedicated sales tax increase and fossil fuel production tax is, it's a few bucks from everybody, but I think it could make a big difference in helping achieve that goal.
Mhm.
And it doesn't take a lot of volunteers. It doesn't take, because if we needed volunteers to do X, Y, and Z, I just think it's going to take longer than anticipated, and time is of the essence.
Yeah.
And I think, honestly, I would be willing to pay whatever it ends up, like $100 a year in tax to go into this fund that's earmarked only for climate change benefit.
One of the things about the tax that makes it a little bit tough is that we're almost already at 10% sales tax in Brisbane,
Right.
and that's just brutal.
Right. Well, and maybe I can go through just the sort of the.
Can I actually, if you were going to go through can I actually, I think this conversation's going a little bit different direction than I think we had expected. I had actually put together a few highlights of some of the things we had already done. I thought this might be a helpful context because, we had shared the Climate Action Plan, which was adopted almost 10 years ago, and the Climate Emergency Declaration, but hadn't talked about what we've accomplished to date. And I think where I was actually expecting the conversation to go was more like, what actions do we want to take next? Not how are we funding them? And I'm not suggesting at all that the funding question is not important. I think it is, but I think it is a little bit of a chicken and egg. So I think this is just, kind of a slightly different conversation. And, Mary, to your point of like simple and fast, I hear you, but we've been doing this for a bit already, and a lot of the simple and fast has been done. There's not a lot of simple things hanging around, or we probably would have already done them. So
Right. Well, the other tricky part is simple doesn't always translate into high impact either.
yeah, exactly,
Right.
effective. So I'm just going to run through a few things on the climate action highlights. Peninsula Clean Energy Formation. I know some of us tend to forget about that, but that was actually a very big and important and set the stage for a lot of other actions to follow, that we have clean electricity now, and we did not have that when the original climate action plan was adopted. We also have our building efficiency program, which is targeting our 10,000 square foot and larger existing buildings, pushing them on energy efficiency and towards electrification and renewables. Reach codes, we had an all-electric version, we had to repeal that, and now we have an energy performance, but it's about as good as I think we can do at this point in time legally towards making sure that new buildings are built with minimal emissions. We've been doing a lot of projects on our city facilities and trying to electrify them. We've been doing a lot in terms of electric vehicle charging infrastructure so that we can help to support the transition of both our, city fleet and the public. The dark sky ordinance certainly has a climate impact. Disposable foodware ordinance that we did kind of in concert with the full county to help reduce plastics and kind of ties in with SB 1383, which is the state's organic waste requirement, which we implemented a year earlier than we had to. We have virtually 100% compliance with our with the container requirements, and we are above our city's required procurement target. So all of those are kind of leading towards a more circular, organic waste stream. So that was obviously very fast, but I think it's helpful kind of context of these are the things that we've already been doing. I think we've made a lot of progress in terms of, the electricity side and even some with buildings, but we have a long way to go when it comes to transportation emissions. It's the biggest part of our pie, and it's the hardest bit for us to tackle. So we'll just leave it there, turn it back to you guys, but wanted to make sure that we, kind of got some of this context in here.
It's a tough one because even on the disposable foodware ordinance, we seemed to have complied, and yet so much of the materials that are being, used really are not recyclable. And it's same thing with the plastic bag thing, instead people just charge for plastic bags and they keep using them and using them. So it is pretty frustrating. So little of it really gets recycled. Anyway, onward and upward.
Yeah, well, and, that's I do want to make that point clear. I don't want to, I think all of these things are massively important, and I'm proud to be in a community that's doing all these things. But
We need to do more.
we need to do more. I mean, and I think
that's
that's
bottom line,
not just
right?
us. That's across the board. America is failing at this right now.
Yeah.
That's not a knock against, city staff or any of us. Yeah, I think everybody's trying to find, the best ways that,
No.
we can have some kind of
Most people
impact
aren't
and make a difference, right? And that's really kind of what got me animated was just, there's obviously a deficit in, we've got this really very, bold 66% goal for 2030. Maybe the reality is that was never really achievable. But, still, I'd love to see us trying. It'd be great if we could do everything we can to make that happen. I don't know. Well, so maybe a specific example. Maybe we could talk about the pool a little bit, because I think it's a really good example.
That is a good example.
It's it's the single biggest source of the city's municipal emissions. And whoever figured that out and went that's a thing we need to do, they deserve a medal and a raise. That. Yes, absolutely.
I also suggested that at one point, but
But I mean, yeah, it's just fully 3/4 of the city's emissions, great. You know, like, yes, do that. You know, like that needs to be taken care of, right?
When you say the city's emissions, you mean that city-owned?
Municipal. emissions,
Municipal
exactly.
operations,
Exactly.
yeah,
And
not
that's
not community-wide.
Yes, and that is exactly. I dug into those numbers, and that's a point that I wanted to make was that it is huge. You know, it's the first in the nation electric pool. You know, heat pump,
Retrofit.
right? A retrofit.
Retrofit. There are electric pools that were built
Oh, first in the
electric
nation,
from
retrofit.
the ground
Yeah,
I
up.
see.
And I don't know if we can say nation.
Got
I'm
it.
pretty confident about state, but I don't know if we can say nation.
Okay, gotcha. Well, so but anyway, I mean, it's a big deal. You know, and it's my understanding is that it's equivalent to electrifying 100 homes, right? Big deal.
Yep.
Going to save the city, you know, $15,000 a year in energy costs, right? You know, it probably doesn't really pay for itself unless you can keep it
for a
online
while.
for
So,
60 years or something.
I'm kind of, you know, having been on the Climate Action Planning Committee for many, many, many years, you know, we've had some of our own projects, we've had staff initiated projects. We've done a lot of great things, but something that came into my mind was to go to council and say, and challenge them to put 50% of their budget for any project towards making it sustainable. And I don't think they'd go for it. But I had wanted to challenge them that, and you just said we save $50,000 for the pool, so why don't we
15.
just
15.
15, sorry,
yeah, yeah.
misspoke. Why don't we just say that's a start? $15,000 annually for sustainability, because we've passed 1.5 degrees in the climate. We are there's a 50-year lag, so we're already 50 years behind. I can talk more if somebody doesn't understand that, but I'm fed up. Honestly, I'm just fed up. I'm out of patience, and I applaud those of you who still have patience, but I'm done.
We have no choice but to have patience because we have to keep working on it, because if we don't, then that's the end game,
Yeah.
you know, so.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I'm
Yeah. Well, no, but I mean, I think
yeah. 15,000 right there.
carving out some kind of a
I'd like to talk about money.
the spot to have those kinds of conversations, I think is really what I'm advocating for. Is, you know, we've got, I think, lots of great ideas. We've got, you know, previous projects that have been, you know, successful, previous successes that we can point back to. I think there are, you know, savings like that we can, you know, definitely point to and say, okay, well, what about this? What about this? Right. But I'd love to be having that conversation and, you know, hopefully pushing things forward a little bit. But the point that I was going to make about emissions earlier was that if you say, okay, it's like electrifying 100 homes, that, and we do know homes account for about 7% of total emissions in the city. So that gets you to, let's see, as of that 2021, we've got 1,821 households, according to the census, and that gets you to about 2.81 metric tons of CO2e per home, right? So presto change, or you do all the math, it ends up being about 0.4%.
There is an interesting article in the paper this week about Atherton having the highest use of PG&E electric in the state. It's was somewhere around 22 I guess kilowatt hours. I'm sorry, I didn't write it down but I was remembering it. And the average in San Mateo County is like 11.7, and Brisbane was at 4.7. So for our zip code, which is, you know, pretty damn good
Yeah.
comparatively. So if we could just get rid of Atherton, we'd probably be, no, I'm kidding. Sorry.
Uh-oh.
Our immediate income
Eat
would
the
go down
rich?
too.
Or
But-
is that what we're down to?
But anyway, yeah, but it is still, the other thing that worries me that you kind of, I think, addressed a little bit in your document is that the reliability, how much are we going to be able to rely on the grid versus relying on ourselves as time goes on? I'm concerned that the grid's not going to hold up.
Well, I'm less concerned about that. I think, you know, doing a lot of work, you know, to work toward electrification. The grid's getting, you know, better over time. It's an old piece of infrastructure that, you know, it's in the middle of being updated. What worries me more is inaction on decarbonization.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's far too easy to do nothing, right? It's much too easy to just say, well, you know, this is how I've always done it. This is easy. I don't see a problem. You know, it's one of those things. It feels like an abstract concept in a lot of ways because, you know, it's not bright purple, right? If CO2 was bright purple and it was harming visibility out there, I think everybody would be, you know, hair on fire, up in arms,
Yeah.
shouting about it. But
And yet that is something that's really challenging. I mean, even for us, it's challenging. We have a house that was built in 1929.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and we can't go. We have to do. We have major work to do to even begin to go completely electric.
Yeah.
You know.
well, I mean, you might. I think you'd probably be surprised once you started going down that rabbit hole. But it's
It is a rabbit hole.
well, it is, and that. But
Sinkhole.
so I mean, one of the points that I made in our meeting, there was that, you know, if we're talking about net zero and we're serious about net zero, decarbonizing the entire economy, it's got to be everybody.
Yeah,
It's got to
I
include
know.
everybody, and we've got to find a way to make that work. It can't just be the rich folks or just the folks who have the time for it or just the folks who have
The money for it.
the money for it, just
Yep.
the folks who have houses built after 1980 or whatever it is, you know.
Yeah.
It's got to be everybody, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's, you know, something at a local level, you know, we can devote time to and think about and, you know, put money towards, you know, how can we support folks?
Yeah.
Right? So another topic that could be, you know, discussed in a subcommittee like this. I think too, you know, we talked a bit about the climate action plan as well. You know, it was raised, well, you know, do we need to rewrite that? Do we need to revisit that? I'm not so convinced that that is necessary. You know, I'm not sure another plan is what we need. I think effective action is really what we need. And, you know, if rewriting the plan a little bit helps with that, I'm not against it. But, you know, I think I'd love to, you know, carve out
So
a space
how are you
for
going to get people out of cars?
Well, this is a good question. Yeah. So, you know, one tactic that, you know, this is sort of, you know, solutioning a bit here, but one tactic that that was, you know, present in a lot of places was this, you know, different forms of accountability ordinances so that folks who are polluting the most pay the most. And also climate resiliency funds, some, you know, have a lot of different names for that, but basically that, you know, it's a financial vehicle that sets up a place where you could put money that's dedicated to climate initiatives, right? And then that, you know, in a lot of cases, the sort of, you know, tax or whatever collection method, you know, they come up with, that's where that money goes and then grows and, you know, feeds local programs that can make a difference, right? you know, I think,
I mean, it's gonna end up being something like that anyway. I believe that. I think it's the only way to, get anything done. I do.
yeah, well, I think the further down this path we go, the more it's going to become clear that, you know, there are just going to be homes that can't afford it. You
No,
know,
I-
they can't afford anything but the do nothing option,
Yeah.
right? And so what do you do?
Yeah,
You
you
know,
gotta subsidize them.
yeah, and
right.
especially, you know,
Yeah.
seniors on fixed incomes
Right.
and things like this,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, it's just,
Yeah.
you know, what do you do,
That's,
right?
that's
And
what, yeah.
I think increasingly, too, you know, we talk about different systems being, you know, potentially unreliable, difficult, you know, we're looking at a real insurance crisis too in California, right? What do you do when the bottom drops out of that, right? I think there are a lot of really good reasons to, you know, build up some sort of a climate rainy day fund of sorts, you know, something that you can rely on. Another, you know, good reason for that I brought up was that, you know, I think it could help the city not default back to old habits, you know, potentially like if there's an opportunity to say turn over a fleet of vehicles or something like that, you know, usually the you know, the default would be, okay, well, what's the cheapest? What's the cheapest option? What would, you know, and that's not always going to be in line with climate goals. But if you have sort of a climate resiliency fund on tap that you could say, okay, well, this is how much the cheapest option would cost. Let's do the right option and take the difference from the fund, right? So anyway, I think there are a lot of different directions we could go with it, a lot of different options, a lot of really good potential solutions. But yeah, I mean, I'd really like to carve out a space for us to be having that dialogue and really get data driven about it as much as we can. Right now we've got the 2021 inventory. I found that really instructive, and it did open to my eyes certainly some things that I think I was discounting the impact of, you know, and I think the more that we can kind of operate that way and say, like, you know, really take stock of, okay, where are our biggest problems? And do we have any good ideas? Is there anything we can do about it? Are there any levers that we can pull? You know, and then get to pulling.
Yeah.
I just have a comment. I was researching a few things, and I told Aaron earlier, there's a company, Heirloom. They're at 125 Valley. They are removing carbon by using limestone. Have you heard of them? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. They're,
Okay.
Yeah,
Alrighty. Yeah.
yeah, they're exciting.
It's interesting.
Do you want to give a brief explanation for?
Oh,
those
well,
of
I
us who
just took
aren't
a
as
clip
well
from
informed?
their website. So they use limestone is made up of calcium oxide and CO2. So when the CO2 is removed from the limestone, the remaining calcium oxide is hydrated with water, commonly known as lime. Lime gets thirsty. Anyway, bottom line, the limestone acts as a sponge, pulling the CO2 from the air. So the only thing I really don't understand is where it gets stored.
Well,
So-
it's in the rock itself.
It's in the rock itself.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
Yeah. But they claim they can take out as much CO2 from years of work to less than 3 days. I forgot how many tons that is. But I don't know if you took a look at their website, but
Yeah.
it is quite interesting.
Yeah, no, I've heard interviews with them on a few podcasts now. They're
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
they're very interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
They're,
So if anyone's listening, it's heirloomcarbon.com at 125 Valley.
Yeah, but the
I
yeah the tricky thing we have with carbon capture and storage and removal is
Yeah.
that, you know, we just sort of keep adding to the problem with abandon, right? So
Yeah.
it's, yeah.
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 We just pulled up the EPA's website, and 2022 transportation sector is light duty vehicles. So this is mostly going to be like your passenger cars and stuff. Is 50%, 57% of the emissions. Medium duty trucks and heavy duty trucks is 23%. I'm imagining that's mostly going to be your delivery vehicles. So I think it's really about the day-to-day driving. And unfortunately, that's a unless you can get people to buy electric cars, which is a massive improvement. It's not a perfect cure, but it is a massive improvement. But unless you can get people to stop driving, you know, I mean, I think that's where we kind of need to, that and the money is where we need to focus.
Yeah, and that tracks with our local numbers. We've got about 53% VMT,
Yeah.
you know, and Adrian helped me out with the breakdown of that one too. Locally, that about 58% of that 53 is passenger, and about 42% is commercial.
Sorry, I didn't pull those up, so I don't know if I can exactly confirm, but that sounds about right. It's mostly on road, but we have a sizable chunk of commercial traffic.
Yeah, so maybe ours is a little skewed a little differently than the nationwide, because the EPA will be national, but
Right, which makes sense. And if you,
Yeah.
I've seen, sometimes it can be a little bit confusing too, all these percentages flying around. You know, I've seen the worldwide numbers, it's more like a quarter-ish, you know, but America's very car heavy. I mean, that,
yeah.
you know,
Yeah, I mean, you also have to consider a local emissions inventory like we do here in Brisbane does not include things like agriculture and, you know, air travel and those kinds of things. So we're missing a kind of big piece of the story when you were
Yeah.
to, if you were to scale up to the, you know,
And then
worldwide
you also
level.
have to consider the fact that our emissions estimating is extremely leaky. There's a lot of things that just aren't being counted yet. And as soon as we get to zero, they'll figure out 10 more things that we forgot to account for, and we'll keep going for a while.
Yeah.
But
no, I'm sure that's true. But I, you know, I think
it's
if,
I mean, we have to do it.
yeah,
I'm just mad, just angry.
well, I'm there with you. I get it.
Adrian, how much use are we having on the electric chargers? Do we have any metrics on that yet?
I don't have them in front of me, but I certainly have access to them.
It'd be nice for us to start charting that and making sure that people know and use them and everything, and really validate that that was something great to pursue, and that we'll continue to pursue that kind of thing
Sure.
now that they're fully functional. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's exactly the kind of thing I'd love to get more data behind.
Yeah.
You know, it falls into the bucket of like, what have we tried before? What's working?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, because there's also some chargers at the marina too.
I do not have access to that data because that is not a city-owned charger. There's one that was installed, gosh, I don't even know how long ago. I think before I started with the city by a private individual that,
They're on city property though, right?
Karen, can you chime in here? I mean, yes, it's city property, but we don't own the charger. I don't
lease
have
the
access
property.
to the data.
Somebody, a boater that wanted to be able to charge his vehicle, leased a parking space from us, and they collect the information on that charger.
I'm sure if we asked, they'd probably share that. Maybe.
Do you know who to ask? Because I don't.
If you tell me who it is, I'll ask them.
Yeah, but what are you trying to get and compare it against? I mean,
You know, kind of like a progress report of like, okay, this is worthwhile. We're going to pursue this some more, you know, as more vehicles go electric. Just like,
Yeah, so I think some of it's if you build it, they will come. Like if you want to buy an electric vehicle, but you don't think there's charging, you wait to buy it. So we put in chargers planning for the future, and we'll get comments when people say, "Oh, I had to wait, and there aren't enough chargers here." Then we would probably
Are we
add
getting
more.
those comments?
I mean,
Because
they're
we
on
see,
the-
feel like we're pretty well saturated with chargers for the moment.
I feel like we did with the fast charger at the village get those kind of comments, but I wouldn't say, with the level 2 chargers. I think that's a different use case and there's a lot more of them. So
Yeah.
I don't know that I've heard that kind of comment for the level 2s, but we certainly did.
One thing we've talked about in the past, maybe we need to circle back around to, is getting existing properties EV charger ready. Like, remember years ago we had conversation about what would it take to get the Ridge, to all those places up there to be EV ready. And I don't remember, honestly, what happened with that conversation. Like why it stalled out. Was there a roadblock or did we just get sidetracked? I don't remember. It was a while ago, but I do remember having that conversation.
You mean with the HOA?
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
I think they decided they didn't want to pay for it.
they
is
didn't
what
want to pay
happened.
for it. Okay.
Yes, I remember those conversations too. And they may have Peninsula Clean Energy's EV infrastructure grants are very focused, and the majority of them are going towards multifamily. So I know I had connected some of those HOA board members that we had talked with the PCE program and encouraged them to pursue it, but I have not
Yeah.
heard more, if anything.
Well, it's been a
came
while.
from
Let's,
that in a while.
let's poke people again because, that would be huge.
I mean, that was a
think-
driving reason by putting so many at Mission Blue Center, was so that folks who lived up there who didn't have access to them because they were in condos or whatnot would have something at least reasonably close.
That's why I'm curious if they're using them, if they're actually using them, what the use is.
Yeah, and there's still, I mean, I applaud the chargers at Mission Blue, but, there's a big difference between because they all have designated parking spaces up there. There's a big difference between having to go park over at Mission Blue, especially if you're in the backside of the Ridge, and having your parking space outside your home be
Yeah,
EV ready. So I
hear
think,
that.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I think we need to stare down them.
there are a lot
one
of
thing we can do.
specific solutions that we could, chase down. In the charging space, I've got a few ideas that, been bumping around in my head for a while too. And have you heard of? There's a startup called It's Electric. Do you know about that one?
We listen to the same podcast, I think.
I think we do. Yeah.
Yes.
Um,
Yes, I've
Yes.
heard of it. In fact, we discussed it at one of our countywide RICAPS meetings as well.
What is it?
Go ahead.
So basically the way that they're set up is they work directly with the building owner and sort of get pre-clearance from a municipality to say, okay, to get a charger out to the street, you're going to need to cut up a little bit of sidewalk, and we're okay with that. If an owner steps forward and the building owner steps forward and says, I want charging here, then they've got clearance to do it. It's tied into the building and not directly into the utilities, so you bypass any kind of red tape that PG&E might throw up. And so it basically ends up being a kind of an open call. Anybody that wants one, they can say, hey, I'd like one. And they don't, the building owner doesn't have to pay out of pocket for it. It's sort of a profit sharing kind of thing. So whatever kilowatt hours end up getting pulled from the charger, they get a cut. So they sort of become the operator of this charging station,
Okay.
right?
Got
And
it.
so that's the kind of thing where, theoretically it could be kind of exciting for, say, renters, for example. If you have a renter, some building owner apartment, owns a bunch of apartments, they have some renters who park their EV out front and would really love to charge at night, but just don't have a
Yeah.
spot or
Got it.
access to a garage or something like that. They can say, okay, I'm going to install some chargers for you guys. Interesting system, and I know they're getting spun up in San Francisco right now. I actually requested one of the cables. I'm on the waiting list because I want to try it out to see what it's see what it's like.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, a lot of really good ideas. I know I've been really curious too about the street lamps on Visitation as well. What they're running at, because I know I'm aware of London, for example, has street lamp charging. Could be a really interesting option if there's enough power coming out of those things.
Maybe we could shield them at the same time. One keeps me awake all night.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, lots of, I think, interesting ideas, interesting possible ways we could go. I think really with a lot of these initiatives, though, at the end of the day, the blocker does become money, right? It's going to cost money.
Yeah.
And how do you square that circle?
How do you fund it?
Right.
When in our discussion just now, I was thinking about, when you talk about getting people out of their cars, and it's hard in Brisbane, and I'm feeling the pain literally because I'm going through some plantar fasciitis and can't walk very much right now. And I was thinking that also the other night we had that presentation at the council meeting about, helping people age in place. And it occurred to me, like, it would be kind of cool if we had a little local, like, golf cart shuttle, electric, that would go around and maybe say you live up on the hill and you want to go to the senior center, or, you need to go get some groceries at Midtown, or you want to go down and have lunch, at the village, or you want to go do something, or go to the farmer's market. But that means getting in the car and driving and parking and going back, driving the car for 3 blocks or driving the car for 5 blocks, and having a little electric vehicle shuttle, kind of like the little utility carts at the marina or a golf cart type of thing, would be really cool. Kind of an on-demand service for people who don't have cars or shouldn't be driving just to go to the grocery store for something.
Yeah. Well,
And that would be a, kind of a local program that would take care of both older folks and less driving in the car. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
But
Something along those lines may be coming with the robo-taxis pretty quickly, but
yeah.
I was gonna say, I see in San Francisco, Zooks, they're testing their electric cars, but they've got a little shuttle that seats probably about 6 people.
Yeah. Like you could probably wreak havoc in Brisbane. Maybe it would stop at its stop signs though, like nobody else does. All right. Do we want to discuss this any further? Are we all good? What's the next steps?
I would encourage consideration of a subcommittee
Yeah.
to further the discussion.
Okay. And how should we go about that?
Who wants to be on it? And do you want to make it a broad standing subcommittee that we need to notice meetings for and meet in person? Or do you want to have a narrow topic focus that you can make an ad hoc?
And when you say in person, that's a quorum, like one person could be remote? I thought, sorry, I'm not sure.
I think a quorum has to be in person at least, right? Yeah. So 2 out of 3 would have to be in person. 1 person might be able to be remote.
Well, right now, who is on the Climate Action Committee right now? Do we have?
We
We
don't
do.
have one right now.
We don't have one right now.
It was subsumed into the building efficiency, but that was me, Glenn, and
Aaron.
Aaron.
Yep,
Yeah.
building, it's, I think, called Building Decarb right now.
Yeah,
Because
Building
that was
Decarb.
the narrow focus that we were working on actively for a bit.
Well, what's the pleasure of the committee?
I'm happy to form a new subcommittee. I feel like we could try to make it ad hoc, but I feel like that would be potentially a little disingenuous because this is not going to be solved or go away anytime soon. And I'd be happy to be on it. I kind of feel like building decarbonization has run its course, so.
I agree. I mean, I think if we are going to reconstitute a climate action plan subcommittee, we can probably disband the building decarb.
And it can be called decarbonization. It doesn't have to be called CAP, but whatever. I don't.
Guys are looking at me. I got hit with the I'm not allowed to telework ever again today.
What?
Yep. It's been a really interesting week as a civil servant for the U.S. government.
You're not allowed
So,
to what?
I'm not allowed to telework.
Telework. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm on site every day, which I already was. But before I could come home if I was getting, maintenance on the house. Now I can't. So my ability to do midday meetings is dead. And I'm not really feeling a lot of love towards anything right now. So I'm going to sit this one out.
Yeah.
Understand.
Yeah. I'm feeling you, Erin. I'm feeling you.
Okay, so I have an idea of maybe having a ad hoc subcommittee to lay out what work the subcommittee is going to do, since we're about to have, like, we're going to probably get another member of the team.
I asked, did we have any applications?
Yes, we did.
Okay.
Yeah, there were applicants. What I heard is that the council is trying to schedule interviews, but I think they, on the, proposed agenda, they want to swear them in on February 20th. So we might have new members,
Yeah.
although I don't know if a new member would be able to make a meeting.
So, what
6
do you
days
think
later.
about it? What do you think about that?
Oh, I could go for that.
So we start by sort of talking about what this body might do and,
Yes.
right, okay. So that's the narrow focus is,
Yeah. So the ad
what
hoc
does this look like?
subcommittee.
Structuring? kind
Yeah,
of,
for maybe like 2 or 3 months would, until we reformulate after we have a full crew again, and then decide what the work is going to be, what the outline, what the plan is, and then form a regular subcommittee. Does
I
that
was
sound like a
gonna-
plan? Is that weird?
I'm a little confused at what that does besides kicks the can down the road. It seems like we could start the subcommittee and have them figure it out and report back just the same.
We could do that. Okay.
I think that the purpose of kicking it down the road was to let the people who are joining potentially feed into that, but they could also join a committee too, but yeah. Whatever anybody feels is best.
Okay.
If you have 7, the committee could be 3. So I don't know, out of the 5 of you, are you thinking there's 2 or 3 at this point, or?
We do officially have 6 members, so they can have 3 on a subcommittee still, right? Because Jason's on the committee, just not here tonight, so.
Does it have to be 3 or could
It doesn't
be 2?
have to be, no. It
Well,
can be a
then-
subcommittee of 2.
I propose we do a subcommittee of Barbara and Anthony.
Sure, we can start with that. I'd love to.
Is there a second? All in favor? Anthony, Barbara, in favor?
Yep, we
good with
can
that?
always offer Jason or a new member to
Yeah.
join in
Great.
a month or couple
Okay.
months.
Or me to feel better. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, man. Okay. All right. New business. We have the work plan. So the Open Space and Ecology Committee provides policy and programmatic recommendations on environmental issues. Priority projects are provide input on quarry and baylands developments, consider strategies to reduce emissions from existing buildings and transportation, support health and growth of the urban tree canopy, utilizing the recent tree inventory via education, outreach, grants, potential other means. Consider setting a canopy coverage goal. Routine ongoing efforts, review and approve the annual vegetation management plan for the Brisbane Acres, review open space plan and its implementation and update as necessary, review and recommend plans to meet the climate emergency declaration goals, provide input on 3 to 4 habitat restoration days per year, improve/maintain Crocker Trail frog habitat, And education and outreach, which includes Day in the Park Community Festival, Bike to Work Day, Littman Science Fair, library display, publications through the City e-blast, Star, website, social media sites, and MCTV, outreach to targeted areas, for example, trash. Long-term policy issues to be addressed if and when they arise, coordinate climate action plan update with Baylands specific plan, provide input on design of Baylands open space upon council approval of land use, and general plan review of future proposed updates to the open space element. Comments, questions, changes, etc. Anybody?
I don't think I have any questions or comments. I do like that it's not a giant list of things, given that we just came off of a 3,000-page Corey EIR, and we're looking at a Baylands as well. So I think that is probably going to happen this calendar year, right? Probably, maybe, probably.
That's what we keep hearing, but
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, is hell gonna freeze over soon?
So feels like
Maybe. Yeah. Really. Barbara, Mary.
No, I like the work plan.
Yeah, seems
Very cut and
fine.
dry. Yeah.
I'll tell you one thing I'm excited about is the support the health and growth of the urban tree canopy.
Yes.
I think that we have a lot of work to do there, and I think that doing that work will absolutely strengthen our fire resiliency
Yeah.
as a community. And I'm hoping that we take that as a really strong multi-pronged approach of both working with the trees that we have, both public and private, maybe forming a volunteer group adjunct to us that can help private
Yeah.
citizens with their tree health and ivy removal. And also that, you know, we really work hard to make people understand and also work on a better list of tree options for people and help educate people.
That we have.
Huh?
That we have.
We
I
have,
don't
but
have
I
it.
think
It needs to be publicized.
and
yeah.
we
Yeah.
need to review it again to make sure that it meets new criteria as the environment changes.
Mm.
Yeah. And then also, you know, issues about maybe implementing permeable pavement around near street trees so that they have
Yeah.
better access to water.
Yeah.
And can without.
I sent an email, but I don't, Outlook just eats things, I swear. But I was wondering if you'd be interested in taking the lead on that subcommittee for the next 12 months, because
Definitely.
work is gonna
Yeah.
be rough for me this year. I know.
Yeah.
So I have to be careful about how many things I'm point on.
Yeah.
I can
I-
do stuff, but
Well, yeah, and I'm retired now,
Yeah.
quote unquote. So I'd love to. I have a passion about it, and I would very much like to do that. And there, then again, that goes to subcommittees.
she's now lead on that.
Got it.
We've officially changed.
And Mary, I strong-armed Mary to see if she wanted to participate in that, but I don't know if she still does, or Erin, if you want to, or if,
Wrong time to ask Aaron. Maybe open it to anyone.
huh?
Maybe open it to anybody.
Do we
Yeah,
want to
anybody.
talk about this when we talk about subcommittee
Okay.
updates and reorganization?
Yeah. So, is there a move
plan?
to accept the Open Space and Ecology Committee work plan?
I'll move.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So this is our work plan. This is the work plan we'd like to submit then to the city council for their approval. Or do
So
we still do that?
Yes, but typically we would have a meeting that would be the OSEC chair and vice chair with the council liaisons to OSEC and your staff. So we will try to set that meeting up so we can get it scheduled, basically just to get the OSEC liaisons kind of on board with the work plan before it would then go to the full council, typically on their consent agenda at that point in time, unless there's anything that warrants discussion.
Okay.
Can you
Who
remind
are
me
the-
who they
Yeah,
are?
who are
Yeah.
the liaisons? Yeah.
Terry O'Connell and Colleen Mackin.
Oh, that's nice.
Unless they've reshuffled in the
That
last week.
I checked after they did some recent reshuffling, and that did not change. So they've reshuffled some things, but those did not change.
Okay. So then, the next thing on the agenda is to consider process and possible subcommittee for OSEC Baylands EIR review. And I believe we had a list at one point of the different chapters or different sections of the draft EIR.
So there's kind of two things, and I'm gonna jump ahead in your slides here. So
Okay.
we do have a couple of ad hoc subcommittees already on the Baylands specific plan. So these are the chapters of the developer submitted specific plan, which is already available on the city's website that you can go read. I'd encourage you to try to get through that content before the draft EIR drops. We don't know when that will be. However, we did just divvy up EIR chapters for the quarry. So our kind of recommendation was going to be that, we don't know when this EIR is going to come out. We know we're going to want to maximize the time, that if it does come out in between meetings, that members could just take a similar assignment. We expect the chapters, I don't know if there may be some things that are slightly different, a new chapter or one chapter that's dropped or something like that based on what's relevant, but the list of chapters I think would be reasonably similar. So if we've got people who already have a kind of list of assignments from the quarry, perhaps if something comes out in between meetings, folks could use that as your kind of starting place, and then we could confirm or make any revisions at the next, OSEC meeting after that came out.
Are you suggesting we take the subject matters that we did in the quarry or the subject matters that we've already signed up to read?
So the EIR chapters are going to be similar to the EIR chapters of the quarry. So you would take those. So if you were reading the biological whatever,
resources, I
you would
be reading
you
the
would read the
biological.
Just throwing it out there as an option, we thought we might want to have some kind of outline in place.
Can I make a proposal?
Certainly.
That we say yes to that for the following month. So if they happen to drop this DEIR in our laps in a month, we'll do that. But I would like to wait until we have potential new members, which we might have at the next meeting, right? The end of February?
Yeah, also, I missed that particular meeting. That was one night I had to work, so I'm not very happy with the list of things I got. It was not really to my interests. And I appreciate you guys giving me something to do, but it was not really to my interest, and so I'm not really interested in moving forward with that particular set.
You didn't like doing aesthetics, Barbara?
Oh.
It's going to be even better for the Baylands.
I actually think it probably will. They'll actually have something aesthetic to consider, potentially, whereas the quarry was just like, it's a big building. It's ugly. Who cares? All big buildings are ugly.
No, not all of them.
Well, pretty much.
Okay, so I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
That I can live with, but no more.
A minute ago, I was like, we shouldn't kick stuff down the road, but now
Well, that's
I'm
not
like,
really
let's
kicking
keep
it down the road. That's just making a basket for it to land temporarily, but I don't think it's going to land in the next month.
Yeah,
But you never know.
could happen.
Could happen. Okay.
Do we need a motion or is that
So
just?
then I don't think we need a motion on this. So
Okay.
as that imply that next month, if we have a new member, we want to have this discussion again and open that back up for the list,
Yes, please.
expected list of chapters and assignments. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Staff updates.
I did a really bad thing, I just realized, and I did not introduce you all to Dolores when we started this meeting.
I realized
So-
that, but we were already heavy into the discussion. I thought,
Already
oh,
been helpful, and we only know her name from her name plaque.
Sorry, guys. It's been a week.
no kidding.
So the morning after our last meeting, our special meeting at the beginning of January, Dolores started with us as our new sustainability fellow through the SEI Climate Corps program. So we are super excited to have her. And she will be with us for this whole year. And her focus is going to be similar to our last fellow, primarily on the building efficiency program and SB 1383, but she will be picking up other stuff as it comes and her time allows and her interests align and all of that. And I will let her introduce herself a bit before I give the rest of my staff updates, since I should have done that like an hour or so ago.
Well, the first thing we know is she's patient.
Yep.
This has been very interesting. Hi, my name is Dolores. I just started about 3 weeks ago now. Is this thing working? This one?
Yeah.
Okay. This is my first committee meeting ever in my life, so it's been very interesting to hear everything so far. I studied ecology in undergrad and sustainability management in grad school, so this is right up my alley. It's very nice to meet all of you. Yes, like Adrian said, I'll be working on the building efficiency program, but I'm also really interested in the tree program that's been going on, and the electrification and everything like that. So very nice to meet all of you. I look forward to sitting in on these meetings with you all.
I apologize for being exceptionally grumpy tonight.
That's okay. It's really cold outside. Gets me grumpy too.
It's not the
Yeah,
cold.
so I have a couple of updates for you as well. Me and Adrian went through some citations last week for the building efficiency program. We issued 4 citations for buildings that were out of compliance. 3 of them, this is their second citation before we bump it up to the third one. But also on a positive note, I've been working with 2 property owners, one with 10 buildings, one with 15 buildings, to get them into compliance. And things are moving forward pretty well with them. So hopefully, those get pushed through.
And that's with regard to the beyond requirements. So kind of getting those last few buildings up to speed with the kind of more intensive phase of the program. Yeah,
Barbara?
Barbara.
Just out of idle curiosity, the people who are on their second fine, did they pay their first fines or are they completely oblivious? Just curious. It doesn't
I
actually
don't
matter.
know if the fines have actually been paid. We upload them to a basically a collection type of agency.
Collection service?
Yeah. So at that point in time, we
You don't
don't.
know.
I could log in and look, but I haven't.
I'm just curious. It doesn't matter.
so
Just
if-
curious how clueless they are.
Well, we know that they're obviously not in compliance still. So
If my memory serves me correctly, we have 100 buildings.
Yep.
Which means that the 2 you're working with represent a quarter of the buildings. So good job. That's very important.
yeah, those were a big chunk. So yeah, thank you.
Okay, I will go ahead with the rest of my step updates. So, little update on the pool project that came up earlier. Wildan, our contractor, sent their draft construction amendment documents to us yesterday. So we're reviewing those, but are hoping to have that construction amendment on the council agenda next month to finally be able to move forward into actual construction of that project.
Adrian, when do you think the construction would actually begin?
Shortly after we approve a contract in some fashion, although it will take a good long while because we need a new 800 amp PG&E service. So completion is probably not going to happen until mid or end of next year. But some phases of the project may be started well before that.
Next year, do you mean 2026?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
PG&E moves awfully slow.
Debbie Downer over here, how much of that is federal grant money?
None.
Good.
Yep.
None, fortunately.
Okay, good.
We are also working on a fleet electrification plan, as well as designs for corporation yard EV infrastructure with Peninsula Clean Energy and their consultants at Optiny. So we've got some reports that we've gotten from them. We actually have had a call with PG&E about their EV fleet program, and it looks like we can get some a good deal of incentives out of them, most likely, but we do have to figure out how many EVs we're actually going to purchase in the next 5 years to be able to do that. So we're working through some of that and hoping to also use some of our PCE local agency grant funds to supplement PG&E funds and be able to move that forward. We do have state advanced clean fleet requirements. So at this point in time, all of our medium and heavy duty vehicles that the city purchases, well, at this point, 50% of them this year and next year have to be electric or zero emissions, I should say. And 2027 and beyond, they will all have to be. So we're definitely taking a very close look at what we have, what we don't see opportunities to replace with electric, and may need to get those purchases made right away, since we may not have viable alternatives that we will be able to purchase in a couple of years, and kind of working through that exercise.
I'm curious, what part of the fleet is that targeting?
So that's basically our most of our public works fleet. Anything that is considered a medium or heavy duty, which is like I'm going to probably mess this up, class 2B or above. I think it's like 8,000 pounds or 9,000 pounds gross vehicle weight or higher. So basically like F-250s, F-350s, recreation van, sewer van, all of those would be covered by that requirement. Emergency vehicles are not, so police and fire vehicles are not covered by those requirements, nor are light duty vehicles like, a sedan or even some smaller SUVs or like our Ford Ranger
So why are
or
light duty
something.
vehicles not covered? Because I would feel like that would be the easiest.
Well, they would be the easiest, so a lot of people are already doing them.
Okay. Got it.
So it's a kind of weird situation where like the easiest thing to do is actually not what's covered by the requirement. It is a bit interesting, but
It seems like police and fire ought to be on the table too, but that's maybe another ball of wax.
we did include them in the Optiny fleet electrification study. Most of them. I mean, some of the fire engines are a bit of like a asterisk way out in the future, but they were included in that plan. But kind of the planning we're doing as far as like corp yard EV charging is really much more focused on our public works fleet.
Yeah, tangentially there, I was curious, is that part of the police and fire must be part of the GHG inventory, right?
Oh yeah.
That's included, yeah.
Well, is fire? I don't know, because they're North County Fire Authority, so I don't know. Sometimes they're included, and sometimes I'm always a little wishy-washy on what is included there. We haven't done a municipal operations inventory literally since I've been here, so I don't know for certain. Yeah, that's a good question. I can check into that. Okay, other updates. On the EV infrastructure side, there was a grant opportunity we talked about at our countywide working group, and ended up CCAG decided to put forward a countywide planning grant application for zero emission vehicle charging infrastructure across the county, identifying how much we need and where we have gaps and where it should go. So we, participated in kind of getting them some info and a letter of support for that grant. So fingers crossed that goes through. I think it was a
Sorry, I was typing what
MTC?
grant?
I think it was MTC, wasn't it? Do you remember? I don't think it was federal. I think it might have been an MTC grant
Sorry, I was typing what?
for zero emission vehicle
Okay.
charging infrastructure across the county, which is not exclusively electric, because I think they did include potential hydrogen fueling stations as a possible part of that investigation. But
Some of the money MTC gets is federal and disperses.
Other RICAPS updates, because we just had a meeting yesterday and you guys were talking about things that were giving me good reminders. So our 2023 inventory is actually expected to be ready in the next month or so, it sounds like. They did a bunch of research and put out a really interesting document called a grid reliability explainer. So I know the question of how much can we rely on the electric grid question came up. They have a really great documentation on that goes into some of the stats. I actually asked them if they would be willing to come do a presentation on that, and I don't know if I ever heard back. So that's a good follow-up item, but I can at least get you the PDF report. I think they published it right before the holidays, which was not a great time, but Peninsula Clean Energy. Oh, I think I have a slide for. Oh, I'm going to go to that one next. Peninsula Clean Energy just did a major website overhaul, including adding this incentive finder on their website. So you can put in your zip code and whether you rent or own your home, household income, tax filing type, and household size, and it will tell you all kinds of things. I tried it for myself. Very long list of things that you are eligible for, how much you can get. So definitely go to the Peninsula Clean Energy website and check this out. Tell your friends.
Will this be in the Blast or the Star or anything?
I think PCE was going to be rolling out some marketing, so we haven't actually gotten. I literally took a screenshot from a webinar yesterday where they were telling staff about it. So the website is live, but they're still working on some of their new marketing for some of the new stuff that they're rolling out. So I don't know if we have that yet, but yeah, we'll definitely be sharing it when they get that to us. And then they also shared, again, this is a screenshot from our webinar slides yesterday, the Air District, which just rebranded, is doing a public workshop and survey coming up on February 11th, Bay Area Regional Climate Action Plan. So if you are interested in hearing more about climate action planning at the regional level, I would strongly encourage you to check that out, take the survey, participate in that meeting. And then the last thing on my list was that you probably have seen that we had some dark sky ordinance outreach going out before the March 1st, 2025 deadline for those easy to do items. So we've had a little bit. We're going to be working on some other things that'll be going out in the March and April stars. So yeah, look out for that.
I just have one, sit in the Public Works Department. We've been looking at trying to get a small sweeper so that if we built protected bike lanes, which is the new standard on a higher speed road, that you actually have a buffer, that this little sweeper could go in that area and keep it clean, because if you don't, you have glass, no one wants to use it. And we're really trying to get an electric sweeper and not a diesel powered one. And we're trying to use Measure M funds, which are vehicle registration fees. We get $10 of that fee that everyone pays for their vehicle, or $10 is collected and split within the county, and we get our part every year. We're trying to gather up enough money, but we are doing a demonstration for that and are hopeful that we're going to be able to purchase one.
Subcommittee reports. Well, on events, we have an event on February 8th, Habitat Restoration Day. It'll be up in the at the Northeast Ridge. We'll be on Clippy Hill again, correct? And you can sign
Yes.
up now on mountainwatch.org. And you should sign up if you're going to attend. And it includes a T-shirt and lunch.
What time is it?
And it's from 9
The usual 9:30 to 12:30.
9:30 to 12. Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I did not put a slide for
And
that.
it is really pretty exquisite up there, and really, really a beautiful place to go. Oh, there it is.
Sorry, I didn't toss that in the slides, but yes,
It's in the
check
stars
that out.
Started,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
haven't
that's
looked
it,
at it. Yeah. Okay.
Come join us.
And then education and outreach.
Actually, the library display, which I think Anthony Walker deserves a gold medal for all his hard work, and the same to you, Adrian. I actually copied it and brought it with me, right? This one? Yeah, it's great. I can't say much because I didn't do any of this.
Anthony, you want to talk about it a little bit?
Yeah.
Well, it was sort of based on our, you know, greenhouse gas inventory.
Yep.
You know, and looking, it's structured as, you know, we've got that 53% vehicles up at the top, and then what could we do? You know, what are the most impactful solutions related to that? And then you've got natural gas, and what are sort of the most, you know,
I like it. It's great. It's easy
it's
to.
you know, it's always hard to
read,
pick
yeah.
though. There was a lot of back and forth with us between how do we want to think about, you know, what's impactful and what should go first, second, and
all
third,
good.
you know. But I don't know. I'm constantly having to remind myself that they're all good solutions.
They are.
Every one of them is important, and like really, what goes first, goes second, and third doesn't matter. Just like get the good ones on there, you
Yeah.
know. But
Thank you.
And did we do anything building decarb? I think we talked about that. Yeah.
Yeah, we haven't met, and I'd suggest we go ahead and just disband it for the climate
Okay.
action.
And then
or
open
whatever we're
space
calling it.
plan update. We haven't met either.
I'm not-
Crocker frog habitat.
Well, I mentioned last time that something was cleared out of the channel, and then afterwards I got clarification and emailed you guys that Paul had asked specifically for one invasive plant that no one remembers the name of, but he pointed it out. We had a company remove all of it, so he was satisfied. And then I checked in with him to be able to email you guys, and he talked about wanting to set up a volunteer day in February, but I haven't heard back from him, so maybe I'll
Okay.
ping him about that.
We'll try to follow up in February. I mean, have a get together. I think and talk. Yeah,
I see him every now and then.
yeah. He called me and
Okay.
I just didn't get back to him
Okay.
right away. It was my birthday.
Okay.
Okay, tree issues. I did talk with Karen about tree issues, and
Yeah, we had a little.
do you want to give an update on that, Karen?
Well, I guess I'm wondering, it's been a few months, many months since we met, and one of the things that the subcommittee at the time talked about was the ordinance for private trees. And we had homework to watch backs the recordings at the council and I think it was one of our meetings when Ken first introduced the ordinance or talked about the changes, so that we can propose, because I don't think they're going to be excited to redo the ordinance again. So we need to have some really solid, that's one piece of what the subcommittee was going to do, is say, look, we still think too many private trees are going away, and these are the ways we would want the ordinance to be different, or whatever it is that
Yeah.
you guys are saying. That's one piece, but then what are we doing with existing tree issues and vines, and how are we doing outreach and all of that? That's kind of the other piece, what trees people should plant. So I don't know if we haven't met. That was kind of where it was going to go. I was
Yeah.
thinking like, do this one thing. Let's not mix them together. Let's keep them separate, but
Yeah.
we need to figure out which one's a priority, I guess, of those two branches.
And you were gonna present the tree inventory thing to the city manager and Randy? And I'd really like to join on that if that's possible.
Yeah, we are kind of struggling with, so the consultant did an inventory and then they host it on a site, but they charge you a subscription cost that's like between $5,000 and $10,000, I don't remember. So we're trying to bring it into our GIS system, and not everything's coming and not everything's easy to use or clear at all about what they gave us. So we've been working through that quite a bit, but we are trying to work towards being able to present it to the full committee. So it's pretty rough at this point, I would say.
Yeah, but you said, you mentioned you were gonna go over it with the city manager and with Randy, and the more times I'm exposed to it, the better it's gonna be.
Yeah,
So if
yeah,
we
I
can,
hear
that'd
you,
be
but
really
that
good.
meeting's more about like, this data doesn't make sense, you know? How do
Yeah.
what are we gonna do with it?
Yeah, no, I get that. If I could participate, I'd appreciate it. Since I'm retired now. So I can come during the day.
Okay, but other than that, the tree committee, do we know, should we just meet and figure out how we want to proceed? Okay.
Yeah.
And at this point, it is, Barbara, you're still on, but not leading, and
Me and
TBD.
TBD, unless Mary wants to do it in the meanwhile. She's got a lot of, she's,
Yeah, I mean, I can participate. Do
Okay.
you have can you get just a data dump, a flat file that I could play with?
Probably, I'll ask. You
Yeah,
know, I'm not the
okay.
tech person, but yeah. Okay.
Okay.
okay. And then the Baylands specific plan, read up, more fun reading.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was everything, right?
Where was the science?
I was just gonna say, it's still, I didn't move it up from the inactive subcommittee section where it normally lives, and this is the time of year where I should have done that. So,
I'm actually going to be out of town for work that week. I just found out. So if anybody else would like to take my place on this go around, I think that would be lovely. Aaron?
I cannot, because I
Okay.
have to do a different thing on that same night.
What night is it?
The 3rd and the 6th, I believe.
Yep, it's February the 3rd at 6 o'clock up at the Littman Gym. And then that's judging, and then the awards night is Thursday, February the 6th.
Mary, are you free?
I really don't want to do it. But I can do it. No, I will.
One more time.
Yeah.
It's
Anthony, are
really
you gonna be
unual
able
for me to
go,
be out
or-
of town for work, but
Okay.
it's
I can
happening
go.
this time.
All right. So Adrian, be ready to print certificates because it's a quick turnaround.
yeah, so you guys are gonna have a decision on Monday.
That night, the 3rd, we'll pick the winners.
Mhm.
But last year I had to run it by
Condon?
Condon, yeah, the director of the science program.
Mm-hmm.
And then you saw a couple of emails, and then issue certificates thereafter. Yeah.
So I'm typically in the office on Wednesdays and Thursdays. You said the ceremony isn't until Thursday. So if you, like, as soon as you can tell me, it's very,
Yeah.
we have a template. All we
Yeah.
have to do is basically change the name and the title of the thing, copy paste it out of the, what's their project name and what's the individual's name, and print them. So it's pretty fast for us to do. And if
Okay.
it's going to need to happen on a day that I'm not in the office, I'm sure we can have Diane or someone else print those off for you.
Sounds good.
Just throw something in. We keep as staff getting requests to highlight cool things that are happening, and I think this Littman Science Fair, I don't know that people beyond parents that have kids in school know about it, so if you can take a couple pictures, we'd probably get it out on social media and maybe in the
Okay.
blast or something like that.
Okay. We don't need to get waivers or anything like that for.
I don't know.
Just make sure there's no kids in the picture just to be safe, you know.
Okay. Oh,
That'd be
okay.
good.
But it'd be, I don't know, I'll check.
They
Yeah.
might
know about
announce it in the blast, that there's the Littman Science Fair, so people actually come and look.
Do they want that in the school though?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I think it's pretty crowded up there.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
The awards night. Yeah.
got a headache.
Sometimes Caroline watches, so.
Okay, next. What's next? There's nothing else on here. Oh,
I guess I will just note we already talked about the liaisons meeting, so we'll try to set that up with Michelle and Jason
Okay.
with the council liaisons.
and then I want to make sure that we don't just back up one, miss next opportunity for PCA grants.
Yeah, I'm on their mailing list. I haven't heard anything. I thought we were expecting something like in the spring, right?
Well-
Tim, wasn't it March or May or something?
Last time we were kind of taken by surprise, so I'm wondering if the PCA grant subcommittee can kind of meet and start fleshing out ideas for the next one, or kind of getting prepared and having things on their mind of what they would want to do.
I mean, fine by me if you guys want to meet.
That's my suggestion. Okay. Next.
Yeah, that's ad hoc. Sure.
Next comes calendar items.
So we already talked about the planting day on the 8th. You'll note I did update this for this calendar year. I have not checked with Ariel and Jeff yet, but Scavenger, Teresa noted that Scavenger is going to be having a Earth Day kind of event and tour, I believe, on April 13th. And then April
13th, that's a Saturday.
yes.
I mean, a Sunday.
Sorry, maybe it's no, yes, I think it is. Sorry, I'm going to put it on my calendar. Yes, it is, in fact, on a Sunday. And then the following weekend is Easter. So I am thinking we probably want to do an Earth Day event the weekend after, which would put it at Saturday the 26th, most likely. So I'm hoping that's going to work for Ariel and Jeff, and we'll be able to confirm that. That's
Okay.
kind of what I was looking at calendar-wise there. We did confirm Bike to Work Day is the 15th, and the Park and Rec Department will host an Energizer station. Summer habitat restoration, I think, probably with vacations and whatnot, a little early to plan that, but we'll pick a day sometime in June or July. Coastal Cleanup Day this year falls on September 20th. The first Saturday of October, assuming that is still what Park and Rec will be doing for Day in the Park, would be the 4th. And then, TBD about a winter cleanup date in November. So that is kind of what we have on that front.
Okay.
I sent Caroline a Teams message and she said, you did send her pictures last year, Mary, and she posted them. And she said she didn't get waivers, but didn't put the names of the kids.
I mean, I sent probably around 3 or 4 pictures.
Yeah, so I think we can do it without waivers as long as we don't
Okay.
name the kids.
Maybe the habitat restoration event in the middle of summer, like June, July, maybe we could work on the frog habitat.
Yeah.
Bad time for the frogs, though.
In the middle
Are you
of summer?
supposed to? Yeah, they're supposed to stay out till August or something.
I don't know. I have to go back and read that report. Okay.
No, I think that's good timing.
I thought so
July-
too.
Yeah, because they're done. I mean, they're gone, right?
Yeah, it's pretty dry
Yeah,
at that point.
yeah. We have to get it ready for, October, November.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, to me, go check with Paul.
Okay. Next is chair and committee matters. Look, Dorothy, your picture's up there.
So can I bring up something?
Dolores.
Dolores. Oh, Dolores
So
Tracy, I'm sorry.
Mary.
The dark skies ordinance, so that becomes effective March.
March 1st, but only for the easy fix items.
All right,
So,
so for the commercial buildings, right?
no,
No.
only if they have easy fix items,
Okay.
same as anyone. If they have, if your lighting is able to be redirected,
Yeah,
it needs to be redirected. If you have changeable bulbs, those should be changed to be, below the 3000 Kelvin color temperature. If they have motion sensor lighting that is, already on timers, those should be set to 10 minutes or less, those kinds of things. The majority of fixtures that, especially if we're talking like LED fixtures, typically don't have replaceable bulbs. Commercial like wall pack or parking lot lighting LED is not likely to have a replaceable bulb. Those things they have 5 years to do.
yeah, okay. I just
Yeah.
wanted to confirm that.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Next meeting, it will be the 4th Wednesday in February. It'll be the 26th of February. Any other business or comments from anybody? I'm adjourning the meeting. Thank you.